Let the word go forth.
Fool me once.
Are you fired up?
I'm not a crook.
Are you ready to go?
Shame on you.
It's Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, hosted by Ben Kissel.
Fool me, can't get fooled again.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Ben Kissel. That's Marcus Parks. It's good to see you again, buddy.
Yeah, you too, man.
I feel like it's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks. What's going on?
It's been a while. Well, first I got the tooth, and then I got Hubbard.
Oh, that's Elron.
I got Elrond.
That's why last episode I constantly referred to you as ass deep in Hubbard, which was extremely disturbing for everybody.
I heard on Twitter.
Yeah.
Many people asked me, hey, you still ass deep in Elrond? Like, yeah, I guess.
Ugh, yuck. Well, I can't wait for you to get out of that terrible man's mind. All right, so let's see here. So on the last episode, I talked about this Oklahoma State senator, and what's his name? Ralph Shorty.
Yes, Senator Ralph Shorty.
Yes, and he passed a great bill, or proposed a bill that I liked. Marcus, I want to hear your thoughts on it. He wanted to make it legal. He wanted to make it legal to shoot down drones in your backyard if they're monitoring, if they're watching you or your Pomeranian or your kid or whatever. And I loved that law. Mm-hmm. It's a great law.
I mean, it's kind of
shoot down the drone. Because you know how fun that is, Marcus. You're drunk, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. No, not you. Let's say I'm drunk.
Okay, let's see your.
And I'm back there, and I got my lawn chair. Mm-hmm. I got a little shotgun, and there's a drone overhead. How fun is that?
It's fun, but
shoot it down.
Well, it's a hard it's a hard law to litigate. First of all, to prove that it was actually on your property. Second of all, you're just getting assholes firing guns into the air.
That's where they belong. Bullets belong in the air, not on the plane. Absolutely. Because no one's ever been shot with a bullet going up into the air.
Except for people on the second floor.
Well, shoot outside of your apartment. The drone isn't in your apartment like that. But anyway, Senator Ralph Shorty, he had a short-lived claim to fame. And I believe I was his only claim to fame, mentioning him on this show and Fox News Radio. I think I'm the only one who recognized the genius of this man, other than a 16 or 17-year-old boy who apparently he tried to have sex with, or did have sex with, in a Super 8 motel.
Soliciting prostitution of a minor, transporting for the purpose of prostitution, and something that I didn't know was illegal in Oklahoma, prostitution within 1,000 feet of a church.
That's, you know what, honestly should not be illegal.
No.
The churches are they are the cesspool of prostitution. You can't 1,000. You can't do that, huh?
1,000
so if
feet.
you're 1,001 feet away,
fine,
no problem.
No problem.
You can go out there and you can find anybody.
But you're still going to be guilty of soliciting prostitution, but you're not going to get the prostituting within 1,000 feet of the church charge.
So you still go to heaven. Is that the point of this law? That is one of the most ridiculous laws I've ever heard. I should have sold that show Lawbreaker. I would have broken that one immediately. Although then I do think I would have been arrested for the solicitation of the prostitution. But it would have been a woman above age. Above the age of 80.
Nope, this guy, Ralph Shorty, caught with a teenage boy and a Super 8. He was ratted on by somebody who did a welfare call, presumably the people who checked him and the teenage boy into the Super 8.
I see. Okay. Well, nonetheless, I agree with his drone policy. I think he had a lot of good ideas go in there, but apparently he just... he couldn't avoid having sex with a minor. He has 3 children and is married. He's 35 years old. Ralph Shorty, there's a world out there where you can live that life. Not with minors. That's obviously the huge issue here.
Yeah,
We cannot
obviously.
support that in any way. And you know this show, we are not Milo Yiannopoulos, or whatever the hell the name of that dumb bastard is. Mm-hmm. We do not encourage pedophilia. As a matter of fact, we actively discourage it.
Yeah.
And I believe all those people should be quartered in a Union Square.
Yeah,
but
I can't believe we live in a day and age where we have to clarify our stance on pedophilia.
It's just, conservatives have made it cool again, apparently.
We have to clarify that. Yeah, this guy's a...
Woody Allen, Roman Polanski, and the alt-right have made pedophilia the hippest thing around.
Well, yeah, I mean, this guy, he is a Republican, and that's always the funny thing is all these Pizzagate guys that are saying the Democratic Party are all pedophiles. Seems like the Republicans get caught with the little boys a hell of a lot more than the Democrats do.
Oh, they're both complicit. This guy's Anthony Weiner combined with Larry Craig. This guy is a perfect culmination of the two.
You make a damn good point there. Weiner did get caught with a little girl.
He's a combo. It's a combo of them all. No, I mean, it just comes down to people pretending that they're different individuals than they actually are in order to run and win public office. Just be yourself. He should have just been an openly gay man and seeing where that took him.
Blow 18-year-old boys.
There you go, buddy. But shoot down the drones that are trying to watch you do it. I'm also pro that. Also, Arnold Schwarzenegger was my politician of last week as well, because he's not running for Senate. Instead, he's going to focus on gerrymandering and redistricting, which is a cause that both of us agree has completely dismantled our democracy. The soil that our politicians sprout from are hyper partisan, which leads to a flower that is equally hyper-partisan, which is leading to the dismantling of the entire institution, the entire republic. But now Arnold Schwarzenegger will not run because he wants to focus on redistricting and gerrymandering. But Marcus, you told me he's not running for Senate because...
Oh, well, the blind items have told me.
Now, what are these blind items? Who creates these blind items? I hear it all the time on page 7, and Jackie has tried to win arguments with me and be like, well, blind items. What is it?
Blind items?
What is it?
Hollywood insiders say. I mean, these are sources. These are your anonymous sources.
Anonymous sources. So they could be totally lying.
They could be, but blind items say that Arnold Schwarzenegger isn't running for office anymore because there is a line of women waiting around the block to take cash for, telling their stories.
So he's even selling out that.
He's even selling out that?
Isn't that? There's a whole line. Bon Jovi has come to New Jersey.
Yeah, and not any sort of like, nothing terrible. Like he's not, beating women or anything like that.
There's no sexual harassment or assault or anything.
It's nothing like that. It's just, Arnie fucked more than a maid. Let's say that much.
Well, you know what? I've been listening to that Neil Young song, A Man Needs a Maid. And apparently Arnold Schwarzenegger really took it to heart. One of the worst songs in human history.
It's a terrible song.
He's just a messy slob. And then he's saying, a man... And he's just talking about a man needs a maid to pick up after himself and then leave and cook him dinner. Mm-hmm. Neil Young might be a horrible person.
He maybe. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm not really sure. I couldn't tell you.
I do love I love some of my favorite songs of all time. Mm-hmm. Obviously Heart of Gold. There's the other one. Harvest. What is it?
Harvest Moon. Also a great album.
Oh, one of the best albums. I have it here on my iPhone 7.
Oh, you've added to your James Taylor collection?
Yes, I still have James Taylor, Only Fire and Rain. Out on the Weekend and Harvest are two amazing Neil Young songs. Mm-hmm. That's it. All right, so maybe Arnold is not running because he's concerned about the political blowback of a series of women talking about the affairs they had with him, or because he wants to solve one of the largest issues in this country, gerrymandering and redistricting, or a bit of both.
I'd say a bit of both. Why not?
Also, I mentioned on Twitter, I did finish Wrap Snacks, which is amazing snacks out of D.C. This was honey jalapeno from Fetty Wap.
Oh, yeah. So it is a rap-themed potato chip?
That's correct. And I want to point out, Fetty Wap has a very emotional quote on the back of this wrap snack, and I thought it was good for our show.
Gimme.
He writes, and apparently he's missing an eye.
Yeah, his I think his illustration on the front has a big O X over his eye.
Isn't that wild? Okay, so he says, nobody put me on. I got up and worked extremely hard for what I have. Nobody can take that from me. Fetty Wap. Isn't that powerful?
That's very powerful.
All right.
So you can think about that while you're fucking stuffing your face full of salt.
I ate so many. I can't rap for shit.
Yeah.
I'm still a horrible rapper, but I'm eating the rap snacks, so I think the next step will be,
fame.
Rhyming. You give me a word, I'll rhyme it.
7.
Next bag. I'll figure that out. After the next bag of rap snacks, I'll be able to rhyme 7 with a whole series of other words.
There's a real easy one that you're missing here.
Yeah, well, whatever. I don't go to gas stations, so I don't know what that word could possibly be. Obviously, we had Rachel Maddow. She had a big reveal of Donald Trump's taxes. It turned out to be absolutely nothing. In reality, it probably helped Donald Trump. It proved that he paid $38 million in taxes in 2005. Marcus and I were discussing before the show, should we get into this? Quite frankly, there is no information.
Yes.
And all we will do is be made to look like a fool if we talk about it, because there is nothing. We don't know. Rachel Maddow played perfectly into Donald Trump's hands. I believe the campaign leaked those tax documents themselves. I believe that came from the Trump administration. And the fact that a liberal media outlet was able to go on screen and promote it like we're going to take down Donald Trump and his taxes, and then disclose the fact that he actually paid $38 million in taxes. I think at the end of the day, it was a big win for Trump, but we just don't know. Marcus was talking earlier, the 1995 tax returns are quite muddled.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a beginning of something. I think this is a possible like breadcrumb trail to something else. It's not gigantic. It's nowhere near the bombshell that Maddow made it out to be. And in fact, I think she spent quite a bit of capital on this.
I agree.
And I think it was a dumb idea to make it as big of a deal as they made it. So it could be that they played right into Trump's hands. It could be that they're hiding something else, that they've got something else up their sleeve. I would like that. That would be fun. But right now, it kind of seems like that they shot their wad way too early on this one.
Do not indict me, okay? I'm sick of that. But the operative word is could be, right? And
Could
we have
be.
so many could be's. It's could with the Russian connections. Could be.
Yeah.
I'm able to do the Fox News radio shows now, and we're getting some of the call-ins, and no one know there are no answers right now.
It's all could be.
It's all could be. So we're going to hold off talking about Trump and his taxes until we get actual answers, because at this point, there's so much misinformation and just so much misdirection happening from all sides. It's detriment. It is to the detriment of the American people and the American psyche, and quite frankly, the intelligence of the political conversation. So I think we're going to wash our hands of the tax returns at this moment because, again, no one knows anything, and the ones who are pronouncing that they do will either be like it's just like filling out your March Madness bracket.
Yeah.
If you win, you're a genius. If you don't, you're just like everybody else who guessed wrong, but you happen to, again, operative word, guess properly.
Yeah, I got to admit, man, I'm feeling real confused right now because, we haven't been on air together in a couple of weeks, but that doesn't mean I haven't been reading the news. I have. I read the news every single day, multiple times a day. Like, I've been a news junkie since I was a kid.
It's the best.
And I don't know if I have any particularly strong opinions about anything right now because I don't have any information. I have no real information. It's just this weird floating feeling right now where no one really knows what's going on ever at any time.
Right.
And I'm not sure if any side really hates that. I mean, of course, the big thing is that, the healthcare thing came out.
Yes, and we talked about that on the last episode, some of the differences, and we'll see where that goes. It seems like Donald Trump is more willing to negotiate with the Rand Paul wing of the party, the Freedom Caucus, the 22 individuals who came in through the Tea Party ranks, the Mike Lees of the world out of Utah, which we will be at this weekend. We will be in Mr. Lee's country. It seems like Donald Trump is more willing to negotiate with them than than Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. Paul Ryan and Mitch just do not want to deal with the Tea Party or the Freedom Caucus whatsoever. But we'll see what Donald Trump is able to actually do with that. Again, that is all up in the air. There is a lot of dialogue going on around 14 million people will be kicked off of health insurance and things like that. If you are a Republican, they will look at that and say those 14 million individuals didn't want to be on health care in the first place. They were forced to be on it. 2/3 of people either chose to pay the tax or just did not pay at all. And in which case they were taxed for that anyway as a fine, basically. And then, of course, you have the people who did just, they got the health insurance even though they didn't really need it. So you could argue that the government forced them to get the health care. The Republicans will allow them not to be forced to have the health care. And the liberals are marketing that as if 14 million people will be kicked off of health care, when in reality there's a huge number of constituents who just don't want the damn thing to begin with.
And I get that.
However, that could also lead then when they go to the hospital, they get sick. Who foots the bill? All that kind of, that kind of
exactly.
dialogue.
Yeah, we're gonna foot the bill no matter what, and that's the thing is everyone hates health insurance until they actually need it. It's
Well, no one
it's
wants
a terrible
to,
plan.
No one wants to pay for the gas for the car they don't have.
It's a terrible plan. I really think what they could do is that they could completely retool this thing into something that could truly work. But somehow they've just made it into something that's just not going to work.
They got the $600 million tax cut for the wealthy for no reason whatsoever, other than it's just Republican politics 101. Totally ridiculous. They do some good things though, like we talked about on the last episode. regarding purchasing over state lines. I did get an email from an individual who thought that could be kind of a dangerous precedent and a dangerous new reality. I am still for it. There are some okay things with the bill, but for the most part, cutting off the Medicaid program for for the individuals who were promised it under Obamacare is going to be a huge political loser. Even people who voted for Donald Trump didn't fully understand when they do talk about repealing and replacing. This isn't a repeal. It is it's a modified version of Obamacare. That's why it's being talked about as Obamacare Light, Trump Care, Ryan Care, those kinds of things. That Medicaid thing is going to be a real a thorn in the side of the Republican Party when you do meet with the constituents in these regions, because they just were not expecting that rug to be pulled out from underneath them. Yeah. Despite the fact that there is no denying that reform has to happen, Obamacare the premiums have gone up. I talked about it in the last episode. A lot of people think that might have just been the market adjusting, but there is no denying that there was $15 billion made by the pharmaceutical industries. There was only $7 billion made under the W administration, W. Bush, of course. From the pharmaceutical industries. They made $15 billion under Obama and Obamacare. So who is winning? Yeah. Certainly not the American people, and certainly not the American people under the Trump Care or Ryan Care plan right now.
I mean, what's going to kill the Republicans in the midterms is this. There's just going to be a flood of negative commercials saying, of someone saying like, "Hey, my sister was helped by ACA. She's dead now. My husband was helped by the ACA. He's dead now."
There's going to be a lot of that, but then who are these Democrats who are going to be filling that vacuum? So the Democrats still have to do a lot of work to refill that bench that's been pilfered and completely pummeled by 30 years of the Clintons, quite frankly. Yeah. And that's what Obama's working on right now. That's the deep state, which a lot of conservatives are talking about.
Deep state. Dumbest shit I ever heard.
Well, it's just so individuals who have a different political ideology than you who work in Washington. Yeah. It's just human. That's what I'm just trying to emphasize that. I got a phone call on Fox News Radio. Guys like, are you a globalist or are you with us? And I'm like, what is global? Explain to me what a globalist is. Yeah. I've been to Uruguay. I've been to Germany. What exactly does this mean? These buzzwords of the right are just as embarrassing and ridiculous as the buzzwords of the left. So this is just going to be a work in progress. And again, this is kind of a funny episode because these things are just in flux right now. Mm-hmm. They're being worked on. And we're just going to have to see what the actual outcomes are. Everyone is projecting the most positive or the most negative outcomes based on your political ideology, and both of those individuals will be proven to be wrong. Yeah. But the one thing that I really do want to talk about is prison reform. And Marcus asked before the show if we talk about this too much, and I do not believe that we do, because I think that prison reform and the prison industrial complex is this generation's largest civil rights issue. Everyone always says, I'd go back, if slavery was around when I was around, I'd go and I'd free all the slaves. I'd stop slavery from happening. Well, it's happening even at a larger scale every single day that you live and breathe in the United States of America. Cliche at this point, America, 5% of the world's population, 25% of the prison's population, 25% of the prison population is in this country. Jeff Sessions, the attorney general who had to recuse himself from the Russian investigation because of some less than honest words on Capitol Hill. I can't say there were lies necessarily, but without a doubt less than honest, and certainly he lawyered up the phrases that he was using in order to protect himself from ramifications of his words. He was against spreading and expanding the private prison industrial complex. The private prisons, they make up roughly 12% of the nation's prisons. They get around $660 million a year. They hold around 60,000 inmates, but I've also heard as many as 157,000 inmates. So it's somewhere within that range. He was against it, the private prisons, and now he has changed his mind, and now he is all about the private prisons continuing their expansion into the prison industrial complex and into, frankly, just making a bunch of money off of indentured servitude and slavery, as we saw in the case that is now brought up by a lot of detainees, immigrants, illegal immigrants, who are now suing the federal government because they are proclaiming that they were used for slave labor, and they want some They want their rights, and they deserve their rights. This is a lawsuit that's happening It's the GEO group rejects the allegations. Basically, what's happening is detainees sue private prison for forced labor. The nation's second largest private prison company is facing some serious legal challenges, and other companies may soon be in the same situation. A federal judge ruled that current and former detainees held at an immigrant detention center in Colorado can join a class action lawsuit against GEO Group, a private prison company. The plaintiffs allege that the GEO Group forced detainees to work for extremely low wages or for no wages at all, and in some cases threatened detainees with solitary confinement as punishment if they refused to work. The center holds undocumented immigrants facing deportation. This is the definition of slavery.
Yeah, of course it is. No, it's holding people against their will and making them do work for free. Yeah, that's slavery.
That is absolutely slavery, and that's for-profit prisons that are the main, culprits and perpetrators of these slavery tactics. And so the fact that Jeff Sessions, these are stories that I wish were a little bit more on the radar, as opposed to, when Donald Trump tweets about being wiretapped, which, obviously we'll see. I don't think there's going to be a FISA warrant. I don't think we'll find out that there was a FISA warrant for the Donald Trump wiretaps. Although they might have been wiretapping Paul Manafort, his former head of his campaign. That is possible.
And with good reason, it sounds like.
Well, what happens is they wiretap the other side, right? So like Kislyak, that's the Russian ambassador. If they had him wiretapped, whoever he connects to will then, be tapped along with them.
Yeah.
And of course, these ambassadors, they meet with multitudes of people, multitudes of politicians. And so that whole story, again, that's another one where it's like, there's a lot of smoke there, but we'll see. Dennis Kucinich came out and actually agreed with Donald Trump about the wiretapping, claiming that he was wiretapped in 2013 when he talked to the son of Muammar Gaddafi before the fall of Libya, and he was brought aware of the wiretaps in 2015 from the Washington Post when they played him the audio of him talking to Muammar Gaddafi's son. So Dennis Kucinich, of course, a former Democrat from Ohio, in no way a right-wing individual by any stretch of the imagination. Strongest handshake in Congress, by the way. That's what they said about him. Came to the defense of Donald Trump regarding the possibility that the FBI might have wiretapped someone within the Trump campaign. So anyway, all of those stories are very exciting, but I think we need to focus on the prison reform aspect of what's happening regarding Jeff Sessions, Attorney General.
He said that the dependency on marijuana is, quote, only slightly less awful than heroin.
Slightly less awful than heroin.
Weed being slightly less awful than heroin because there's a lot of... And he's talking specifically about medical marijuana because they're saying that if marijuana is legalized in a lot of these states, then heroin and opioid uses will go down, which is a proven fact that states that have legalized marijuana have drastically lower deaths in opioid overdoses. And by the way, the opioid deaths have now surpassed the AIDS crisis at its height.
It's unbelievable. The fact that, again, big pharmaceutical companies who made $15 billion a year over the past, many, many years, the fact that they are getting away with murdering people on a daily basis, including some of our biggest celebrities, such as Philip Seymour Hoffman and Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
And most likely Prince.
Well, Philip Seymour Hoffman was straight heroin.
Good for him. Classic. He was vintage. He was classic.
He was classic.
Without a doubt. Prince, though. I think the big pharmaceutical companies should probably, at some point, we'll have to sue them the same way we sued Big Tobacco.
Yeah.
They are killing so many people in this country. And so for Jeff Sessions to point a finger at marijuana, which has been nothing but an economic surplus for the states that legalized it, and has been nothing but a benefit for people suffering from PTSD, for individuals who have massive arthritis pain, the pharmaceutical drugs are the ones that really deplete you of your personality, of your ability to go through life without dependency. Those completely those deplete all of those options. When you get addicted to Oxy because it makes your body feel good, the chemicals that are firing in your mind are so addictive.
Yeah.
And so you can't break that stuff. And that's why you have what happened in Indiana. And this all ties into the prison industrial complex. That's what you have happening in Indiana, where they had to do a needle share program under Governor Mike Pence, now Vice President, obviously, because there were so many people who were forced onto heroin because the oxy prices went up. So they had to start shooting up heroin in their people say trailer parks and things like that, in their nice suburban homes.
Yeah.
That's where they're shooting up heroin because they got addicted to OxyContin. And now we have this jerk-off, Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, saying that marijuana is just slightly less awful than heroin. Heroin, which is worse, which is slightly less awful than OxyContin.
Yeah.
But why aren't we talking about that? The head of this spear, the head of the drug addiction in this country is the big pharmaceutical companies. And Marcus, I know we've all taken pharmaceutical drugs for our benefit.
Yeah.
And in many times it's good, but there is no denying that there are countless examples of doctors getting kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies, overdiagnosing individuals, and then when those individuals, there is no weaning off the product. The only way to wean off it is to go get a 10 bag in some dumbass alley or from God knows where of heroin, and next thing you know, you have a massive health epidemic. And meanwhile, we have an attorney general who's worried about marijuana, which is doing nothing but causing a massive amount of influx of economic stability to states that previously didn't have it.
Well, the pharmaceutical companies, they're complicit not just in the painkiller epidemic, but they're also complicit in pushing antidepressants on doctors.
Oh, of course.
Doctors will overprescribe antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, because those pharmaceutical reps will pay them to push a specific antidepressant. Doesn't matter if this is the right antidepressant for you. Doesn't matter that Zoloft isn't the one that's going to work for you, that's going to be best for you. This doctor gets paid by the rep to push Zoloft, so he's going to push Zoloft on you, even if you don't need it. These pharmaceutical companies, and I would not be able to, I wouldn't start a Cave Comedy Radio without pharmaceuticals. Wouldn't be here where I am right now without pharmaceutical drugs. But that does not mean that the pharmaceutical companies are not complicit in a lot of bad shit that happens in this country every single day.
And this is a perfect transition when it comes to a mental illness in this nation. What happened with Ronald Reagan, who, by the way, I was arguing with people about this on my show recently also. Ronald Reagan appointed 2 pro-choice Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
He passed the Mulford Act in 1967, which basically was a total anti-Second Amendment act to demilitarize and, de-arm the Black Panthers, which you could argue are the definition of the Second Amendment.
Oh, yeah, Republicans treat Reagan the same way they treat Jesus. So they cherry pick and then ignore everything else.
Absolutely. And of course, the left does the same thing with Bill Clinton, and we'll see what they can do with Obama. Certainly the mainstream media, but certainly people did not cover Obama as much as I thought they should have. But when it comes to when it comes to mental illness, Reagan just got rid of Carter's policy, which basically was a government-funded facility for hospitals. They gave a lot of money to hospitals and to those facilities to treat mental illness. In some ways, they were a prison in their own right. I mean, hell, Hinckley, the man who shot Reagan, didn't go to prison. Mm-hmm. He went to a mental health facility. Can you imagine that in this day and age?
Yeah.
It always surprises me when I hear that. Mm-hmm. This man nearly killed the president of the United States, and they sent him to a mental hospital. But that's just the difference in society from then and now. Now you'd be like, you send him to prison. Of course you send him to prison.
Just send him to prison, send him to the fucking chair. I mean, he would be strung up in the streets.
Well, now, yeah, sure. Well, we'll see. I mean, I think the prisons are worse than being strung up in the streets in a lot of ways. But what happened, that's why when Reagan took office, 300,000 people in prison, left with 800,000 people in prison, and so on and so on and so on. And now we have nearly 3 million people in prison because we streamlined mental illness and violent crimes and both of those kinds of individuals and then drug addicts into the same camp, which is now just our prisons, which is leading to a massive issue at Rikers where medical staff are afraid to go and treat the inmates. This is from an article today in the Daily News. The City Corrections Department specialized units for its worst behaving inmates are potentially unsafe for medical staff to conduct daily rounds, according to a top public hospital official and medical staffers. So basically, these individuals are so off their rocker because of the mistreatment of the prison system, and then because of the misdiagnoses that are happening on a regular basis, because I'm sure many of them are mentally ill or made mentally ill by the situation that their crime put them in. Where these medical doctors are too scared to go into Rikers.
Yeah, this is a quote from one of the clinicians. It says, "It's like walking the halls of a middle school, except instead of the occasional bully, you have numerous scary-looking dudes, huge in size and stature, and usually angry as fuck."
So it's like walking the halls of a middle school, but when you're like tripping on mushrooms. Your life is just like far too big. You're like Jack, what is it, Jack Skeleton from A Christmas?
Jack Skellington.
Jack Skellington.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Scary world.
Yeah, the guy said, if you're afraid of one bully in middle school, imagine that on steroids times 100,000. They call us names, tell us they're going to rape our relatives, and try to throw piss on us when they're locked in while we do rounds.
Well, isn't that just a wonderful place to be? I mean, it is. The entire institution needs a massive amount of reform. And you hear those stories, and it is like, okay, so now we have created such monsters. The society has created such an epidemic of struggle when it comes to these individuals are made mad because they're kept in solitary confinement 23 hours a day, 17 hours a day in many cases, as well, if you're slightly better off.
In this case, it's 17 hours a day because that's all part of Ponte's plan. Ponte was the new corrections officer here in New York that tried to do some reforms of solitary confinement. So the new reform is 17 hours a day instead of 23.
So now you have a situation where you have 17 hours a day in solitary confinement. So it's a perfect recipe for slave labor because those individuals are going to be ready and willing to work for nothing if you just let them out of their cell. Mm-hmm. It's the sunken place from Get Out. It literally is. You treat someone so horribly when you allow them a small amount of access to the perception of freedom, they will jump at the chance. But there is still no denying it is nefarious and it is slave labor. Let's go into some of the stuff they make. They make, as we've talked about on previous episodes, but I do just want to hammer it home because this stuff is so real. Again, everyone says, I would stop slavery if it happened in my lifetime. It's happening. It happens on a regular basis every single day of our lives. Protective and military gear, responsible for 60% of its sales. The Department of Defense is actually Unicor's biggest customer, Unicor being a private prison. And, I talked about this in a dumpster fire chat. The irony should not be lost on any of us that the catchphrase and the branding motivation for our military is to spread freedom around the world. Mm-hmm. And the outfits they're wearing are made by prisoners. That should not be lost on anybody. They are wearing slave-made garments, prisoner-made garments to go spread freedom around the world. I mean, am I wrong, Marcus? Am I wrong?
No, not at all.
Thank you. That's a rare time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. This is something that me and you can agree on 100%.
We always agree on this.
We always agree on that. Yeah.
Anyway, law enforcement equipment. They make a bunch of law enforcement equipment. It was in what basically is the most painful. It's painfully ironic. Prisoners in Texas and Washington make tools of the trade for police officers that include duty belts, uniforms, target practice posters, and handcuff cases. They also make McDonald's uniforms. The people on the real front lines. The real front lines of America. People working the McDonald's register who, by the way, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
That's some evil shit to make them handcuff cases, to make them actually make the tools that put them in prison.
Oh, yeah, of course.
That is some nefarious shit. I mean, that's something
awful.
That somebody is giggling and wringing their hands right now.
And you can imagine. I mean, it's the same kids, in China making the iPhone 7. Mm-hmm. They just, where does this go? They have to, I would love to speak to a kid working in a Chinese factory and just be like, so what do you think of us?
Yeah.
I'm sure he would say we're a bunch of spoiled assholes.
I'm sure he probably doesn't even know who we are.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe
I
he
mean,
listens to the show. Hello.
who knows? But and of course, before you think that we're trying to be that we're being soft on prisoners or anything like that, it's like, yes, some of these people that are in prison absolutely deserve to be there. I mean, you've got murderers, you've got
Totally.
Extremely violent assholes, you've got rapists. Of course, those people are there. But can you imagine being somebody who is like, say, in California, got their third strike for having an eighth of weed?
Yep.
Or somebody anywhere who had like just a little bit of weed, fucked up just a little bit, and they're spending the next 40 years of their life putting together police uniforms.
I guarantee you I would be in prison today if I was of a different, if I was in a different state, if I was of a different race, if I was a different economic class growing up. I mean, obviously very lower middle class in my situation, but I guarantee you what we did, I was awful.
Yeah.
If I got busted for everything that I did wrong, holy hell, my rap sheet, I could probably rap. As a matter of fact, my rap sheet would be so long.
Yeah.
So it really is circumstance in a lot of these situations. And again, the heavily, policed areas and prosecuted areas tend to be urban environments. And, and this is where, this is why if I would run for public office, which I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do anymore, I'm so dang busy right now. But when we look at gun rights, for example, going back to the '67 Act that Reagan was able to sign and absolutely was thrilled to sign, disarming the Black Panthers, the 1911 Sullivan Act. We talked about this in a dumpster fire chat, where it was they disarmed blacks and Hispanics in downtown New York, and then they passed very, very hard sentencing laws. And the guns don't go anywhere. The guns are all around. All the violence is still there. But now you get to prosecute and persecute societies different than you do other societies, which is white America versus black America specifically. If you want to look at the differences between this nation, look no further than the Second Amendment, blacks versus whites. Whites get to have it and blacks don't.
That's goddamn true.
And that's the left and the right promising that happens. The right's happy to put him in prison, and the left is happy to say, oh, but we're hard on gun crime because look at all the gun violence. We have to get it out of there. It's not changing. Both sides are complicit. Both sides are nefarious, and both sides are disenfranchising small groups, larger by the year groups in this nation from proper and equal constitutional rights.
Well, I'd say putting them in prison for the rest of their lives is a little more nefarious than gun control.
But it all plays into it.
It all plays into it, but I would not say they are not equally complicit.
You imagine the Bundy clan over there in
Clive Bundy? Yeah.
Clive Bundy out of Oregon. Imagine if they weren't white.
Oh, yeah. I get what you're saying exactly. I absolutely get what you're saying. But
that is a stance I think that should be or an angle that needs to be taken in the defense of the Second Amendment in a lot of areas where it's like if you just can't self-protect, you don't have the right to it, and then when you don't have the right to self-protect, the police are your only form of protection, and I would argue many times the officers don't have your best interest in mind. Even though I think cops do some amazing things, the fact of the matter is they deal with people that we walk past on a daily basis, being like, "Hope someone handles that crazy bastard." They handle that crazy.
Every day they handle that crazy bastard. Yeah.
Again, but that's something we'll get into more and more in the show here. I think these are more interesting. This is more interesting as a subject matter than Donald Trump's taxes that we don't know exist. That's my personal opinion.
It's very important stuff. Yeah, but.
So they make McDonald's uniforms.
I just don't know if a gun in every hand is a right way to handle society.
I don't want a gun in every hand.
Really,
what do I say?
I just
jokingly on the in the live shows of the last.
A baby in every arm and arm every baby and a baby in every arm.
Yeah, a gun for every baby and a baby in every arm.
Yeah. I just don't know.
No,
if
I agree.
Give everybody guns idea is a good idea.
It's not about giving everybody guns, Marcus. You're not giving them away. There will be stores. I'm just saying we shouldn't.
Everybody
penalize
having guns just
they
seems
necessarily
like a really
have guns.
bad idea.
I'm also for smart gun technology, smart bullet technology. If you're not using your gun nefariously, why does it matter if you're the only one that can use it, or if the bullet that you fire is tracked?
Yeah,
I'm not against that.
I like smart gun technology.
I'm saying from a prison. Okay, so this is why I say it. I did 2 weeks on grand jury duty in Kings County.
I know,
and all the I'm telling the audience, Marcus. We've heard our own stories far too much, and every single time an officer would come in there with a gun charge, the blacks and Hispanics would say it was BS. They were like, absolutely not. It was planted, and many of them it didn't go to trial. Grand jury, of course, is just you need 12 out of the 22 to send the case to trial. This is a preliminary trial situation. And I thought that was so illuminating, and it was really enlightening in that community. These little snub noses that these cops are finding on people. It must happen to such a degree where it is culturally acceptable that it is planted. That guns are planted. It is just a...
I mean, you're using OJ logic here. That's the exact same logic that jurors used in the OJ Simpson case.
But it certainly was the case in L.A. as a whole. OJ was able to monopolize it and take it and basically just kind of like steal the entire thunder of the civil rights movement that was happening in L.A. regarding police reform and use it to benefit him, which set the entire state back God knows how far.
Yeah, really fucked things up bad. Johnny Cochran really backed the wrong horse on that one.
But Marcus, the only reason it worked was because it was real.
Yeah, I know. I know it's absolutely real. Yeah, if you watch OJ, the People versus OJ, that's what makes it so ridiculous. The entire thing so ridiculously infuriating.
Right.
Is that nobody's right on this.
Yes, and when you put the LAPD on trial, which is exactly what the defense team did, the jurors were right to indict them. And make them find them guilty of complicit and systematic bias, which is what that case was, which is what's happening on a regular basis all across this country, and the left and the right are both propagating its existence and are both complicit in the prison industrial complex because of the laws that both of them are passing, which by definition, disenfranchise minority groups from, full rights under the Constitution of the United States. Even if we I don't want a gun. I mean, I do want
you
multiple,
do want a gun,
but I want a lot of land, I also want to be mentally stable.
2 days ago, where you talked about how much you wanted a gun.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna. I have to be mentally stable. I'll get sober, and then I'll get a gun collection. I'll do one thing at a time. These can't run. These are not concurrent things. These are not. These are consecutive actions. Yeah. So I will get sober, and then 2 years later, I will get a large gun
when
collection.
You get your 2-year token, your 2-year chip.
Yes, I'm buying guns.
Here's your 2-year chip. Here's your gun. That's how we should do gun reform in this country.
There
you get your 2-year AA chip. You trade that in for a gun.
I love that. That would be absolutely wonderful. Anyway, okay, we have to wrap it up. I was just screaming. I'm sorry, Marcus.
No, it's fine. I like it when you scream.
They also make
I like it when you scream.
Microsoft software packaging, Honda car parts. I mean, they make Victoria's Secret lingerie.
Now that's crueler than making them make the police uniforms.
Yeah, this was in the 1990s. It was 25 female inmates in South Carolina. They stitched all the Victoria's Secret lingerie, which, Happy Valentine's Day. How great is that?
Anyway, wonderful.
Yes, and of course we could have made Kellyanne Conway jokes about how her talking about microwaves and things like that.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. It is what it is. The biggest issues of our time, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest issues of our time, drug reform, prison reform, education reform, which we'll get Molly back on, by the way, Molly Neffel, to talk about, those sorts of things. I mean, these are really, there are...
Healthcare reform is a gigantic issue as well.
We're working on it. Gerrymandering and redistricting, massive reforms. So don't get too caught up in all this little day-to-day nonsense because, working in the television news industry, quite frankly, every day you wake up and you're like, oh, I have to make something to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they do. They make it up.
Got 2 hours to fill here.
I watch CNN. I mean, CNN, it's all make-believe. It's all just make-believe stuff. Anyway,
I don't say it's all make-believe.
It's fake news. I heard it was fake news.
It's not all make-believe.
It's not all make-believe.
No. It's saying the same thing 6 different ways for 2 hours.
Well, no.
That's not
no.
make-believe.
It's saying the same. It's saying a similar thing 8 different ways for 120 minutes. That's what it is, Marcus. I mean, let's not be stupid here.
But it is selective. I will say that. It is very selective. They decide that they could talk about 20 different things an hour, but instead they choose to focus on one thing for an hour and a half and say it as many different times as they possibly can and choose to ignore as much as they possibly can. That's what the bias is.
That's what they do, all for the ratings and all because they're sponsored by huge corporations who are desperate to keep us divided so they can continue the duopoly of power that they are currently financing. All right, that is Marcus Parks. I am Ben Kissel. You can find Marcus on Twitter at Marcus Parks and Instagram at Marcus Parks. I'm on Twitter at Ben Kissel, Instagram at Ben Kissel1. And I think that's basically it. Yeah, we got the T-shirts, which are selling like, dare I say, hotcakes. That's a lot. And people love hotcakes.
Wonderful hotcakes.
Better than, I guess, colder ones. I don't know. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
For more shows like the one you just listened to, go to cavecomedyradio.com.